The warning lights turned red all at once. Every screen on the cargo ship started flashing, and the loud alarm made ears hurt. He grabbed the control stick with both hands and tried to keep the ship steady, but it was shaking too much. "Daddy," the small voice came from behind him. Looked back at his daughter, was only 7 years old. She was sitting in her safety seat with her favorite stuffed rabbit held tight against her chest. Her eyes were wide and scared. "It's okay, baby," said. He tried to make his voice calm, but inside he was very afraid. "Just hold on tight. Daddy will fix this." But did not know if he could fix this. The engine had stopped working. He could see through the window that they were falling toward a moon covered in ice and snow. The moon was not on any map. No one had ever been here before. Had been a cargo pilot for 12 years. He moved supplies between space stations and colonies. It was not exciting work, but it paid well enough. After his wife died 3 years ago, he had to take care of alone. Sometimes he had to bring her with him on trips. This was supposed to be an easy job. Fly to Station Gamma, deliver the medical supplies, fly back home. 3 days. Simple. But nothing was simple anymore. The ship hit the atmosphere of the ice moon. Everything became hot and bright outside the windows. Pulled back on the controls as hard as he could. The ship was going down too fast. Way too fast. "Hold on," he shouted. The little girl screamed as the ship dropped through the clouds. Below them could see nothing but white. Snow and ice everywhere. No cities, no stations, no help. He tried to slow down. The emergency thrusters fired, pushing back against the fall. It was not enough, but it was something. Maybe they would survive the landing. Maybe. The ground came up fast. Saw a flat area between 2 small hills. He aimed for it. This was their only chance. The ship hit the snow. The impact threw forward against his safety straps. Metal screamed as the bottom of the ship scraped across the ice. Windows cracked. Sparks flew everywhere. The ship spun around once, twice, then finally stopped. For a moment, everything was quiet. His head was hurting. He touched his forehead and saw blood on his fingers, but he was alive. He quickly turned around to check on. The little girl was crying, but she was not hurt. Her safety seat had protected her. She was still holding her stuffed rabbit. "Daddy," she cried. Unbuckled himself and ran to her. He picked her up and held her close. She felt so small in his arms, so fragile. "We're okay," he whispered. "We're okay, baby, we made it." But knew their problems were just beginning. He looked at the screens that were still working. The temperature outside was very cold, -60 degrees. Their ship was damaged badly. The communication system was broken. They could not call for help. They had food and water for maybe 2 weeks. The heating system was still working, but for how long? Did not know. He sat down on a seat and wrapped a blanket around her. "Stay here and keep warm," he told her. "Daddy needs to look around outside." "Don't leave me," said. Her little hands grabbed his jacket. His heart hurt when he saw the fear in her eyes. "I'll only be gone for a few minutes, I promise. I need to see how bad the ship is damaged, then I'll come right back." He put on his thick winter suit and his helmet. The suit would keep him warm for a little while, but not forever. He had to be quick. The door of the ship was stuck. Had to push hard to open it. When he finally got outside, the cold hit him like a punch. Even with his suit, he could feel it trying to get in. The sky was gray and heavy with clouds. Snow was falling softly. The 2 small hills on each side blocked some of the wind, but not all of it. The ship had made a long scratch in the ice when it landed. Pieces of metal were scattered everywhere. Walked around the ship slowly. The damage was bad, very bad. Half of the engine was gone. There were holes in the side of the ship. They would never fly again without major repairs. Repairs that could not do alone. He felt a heavy weight in his chest. What was he going to do? How would he save his daughter? Then he saw something strange. About 100 meters away, there was a small hill of snow that did not look natural. It was too round, too smooth. walked toward it carefully. With each step, his boots crunched through the ice. When he got closer, he saw that the snow hill was covering something. Metal. He brushed away some of the snow with his hands. Underneath, he found a small structure. It looked like an escape pod or a shelter, but it was not human-made. The design was different. Alien. Had seen many alien technologies in his years of traveling through space. Humans had met several alien species. Some were friendly, some were not. This design looked. There were a fox-like species known for their beautiful fur and their strong family bonds. They usually stayed away from humans. The shelter was old. It had been here for a long time, maybe years, maybe longer, but could see a small light still glowing on the side. Something inside was still working. He found a door and tried to open it. It was frozen shut. He kicked at it several times until finally it broke open. Inside, the shelter was small and dark, turned on the light on his helmet. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. There were 2 pods in the center of the shelter, stasis pods, and inside each pod was a young girl. They looked like teenagers, maybe 15 or 16 in human years. Their fur was white and silver, perfect for this frozen world. They had pointed ears and small, delicate faces. Their eyes were closed. They looked like they were sleeping. Check the pods. The power was almost gone. These girls had been frozen here for who knows how long, and now the machines keeping them alive were dying. If he left them, they would die. Maybe in a few hours, maybe in a few days, but they would die. He thought about their limited food and water. Taking care of 2 more people would make everything harder, much harder. But could not leave them. He could not watch 2 young girls die when he could help them. What kind of father would he be if he taught to only care about herself? He looked around the shelter. There was a small computer that still worked a little. On the screen, he saw a message in the language. His translator tried to read it. Emergency evacuation. Colony ship attacked. Pod jettisoned. Sisters and Lyra, please save them, please. Read the message again. Colony ship attacked. These girls had been sent here to survive. Their family had launched them into space, hoping someone would find them. But no one came, until now. I'll save them, said quietly. I promise. He disconnected the first pod carefully. It was heavy, but he could carry it. He had to make 3 trips. First one pod, then the other, then some supplies from the shelter. Watched with big eyes as her father brought the strange pods into their ship. Daddy, what are those? She asked. These are 2 girls who need our help, said. He was breathing hard from all the work. They're sleeping right now, but we're going to wake them up. Are they aliens? Yes, they're. Do you remember the pictures I showed you, the fox people? Nodded slowly. They're pretty. Smiled a little. Yes, they are, and they need us to take care of them. He connected the pods to their ship's power. The lights on the pods became brighter. The machines inside started working again. Could see the readings changing. The girls were still alive. Their hearts were still beating. But he could not keep them frozen forever. Their ship did not have enough power for that. He would have to wake them up, and soon. Looked at the 2 sleeping faces through the glass of the pods. They looked so peaceful, so innocent. They did not know that their families were probably dead. They did not know that they had been floating alone in space for years. They did not know that they were now on a frozen moon with a human and his daughter, with no way to call for help. What have I got myself into? Whispered. But even as he said it, he knew he had made the right choice. His wife had always told him that kindness was never wrong, even when it was hard, even when it cost something. Being kind was always right. He looked at. His daughter was already next to the pods, looking at the sleeping fox girls with curiosity instead of fear. Will they be our friends? Asked. Put his hand on her head. I hope so, baby, I really hope so. Outside, the storm was getting stronger. Snow was piling up against the ship. The temperature was dropping even more. They were trapped on a frozen world with no help coming. But inside the ship it was warm, and had made a decision. He would protect these girls. He would protect his daughter. He would find a way to survive. Because that was what fathers did. The first pod made a soft sound, looked at the screen on its side. The waking process had started automatically. In a few hours, the first girl would open her eyes. Did not know what would happen then. Would she be scared? Would she be angry? Would she understand that he was trying to help? He did not have answers. He only had hope. And on this frozen moon at the edge of known space, hope was all they had. Sat down next to his daughter and waited for the Fox sisters to wake up. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. As a family. Maybe not the family had expected, but a family all the same. The universe had brought them together. Now it was up to them to survive. The first pod opened with a soft hiss. White mist floated out into the warm air of the ship. Stood nearby, watching carefully. He had moved behind him just in case. He did not know how the Fox girl would react when she woke up. The girl inside the pod did not move at first. Her chest rose and fell slowly as she started breathing normal air again. Her white and silver fur was covered in tiny ice crystals that were now melting. Then her ears twitched, her fingers moved, and finally her eyes opened. They were golden, bright and golden like two small suns. For a moment those eyes just stared at the ceiling of the ship. Then they moved to look at. The fear came instantly. The girl screamed and pushed herself back into the pod. She looked around wildly, her ears flat against her head. When she saw, her whole body started shaking. "Human," she cried out. Her voice was rough from not being used for so long. Stay away from us." Raised his hands slowly. He made sure she could see them. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said in his voice. "My name is, I found your pod outside. You were dying. I brought you here to save you." But the girl was not listening. She was trying to climb out of the pod, but her legs were too weak. She fell to the floor. Her whole body was shaking. Wanted to help her up, but he knew that would only scare her more. "Lyra," the girl cried. "Lyra, wake up." She crawled toward the second pod on her hands and knees. Her arms could barely hold her up. When she reached the pod, she hit the glass with her small fist. "Lyra, please wake up. There's a human here." Stayed where he was. He watched the scared girl with sad eyes. "Your sister is still waking up," he said gently. "It takes time. The stasis made you both very weak." The girl spun around to look at him. Her golden eyes were full of tears now. "What do you want? Why did you bring us here? Are you going to sell us, hurt us?" The questions hurt's heart. What had this girl seen that made her so afraid of humans? "I'm not going to hurt you," he said again. "I'm a cargo pilot. My ship crashed here. I found your shelter and saw that your pods were dying, so I brought you inside my ship where it's warm." "I don't believe you," the girl said, but her voice was getting weaker. Her body was running out of energy. Humans are dangerous. Everyone knows that. You destroy, you take, you." She could not finish. Her body gave up and she fell against the second pod. She was breathing hard, her small chest moving up and down quickly. Moved slowly toward her. She flinched when he got close, but she was too weak to run away. He took off his jacket and put it over her shoulders. "You're cold and tired," he said softly. "You need to rest and eat. Whatever you think about humans, right now I'm the only person who can help you. Will you let me?" The girl looked up at him. Her golden eyes studied his face for a long time. She was looking for lies, looking for tricks, but had nothing to hide. He just waited. "Daddy." Small voice broke the silence. She stepped out from behind the seat where she had been hiding. In her hands, she was holding a cup of warm water. "I made this for her," said, "because she looks cold." The fox girl stared at the small human child, walked forward without any fear. She held out the cup with both hands. "Here," said, "please drink it, you'll feel better." For a moment, no one moved. Then very slowly, the fox girl reached out and took the cup. Her hands were shaking so much that some water spilled over the sides, but she managed to bring it to her lips and drink. The warm water seemed to help. Some color came back to her face. Her shaking got a little better. What is your name?" the fox girl asked. I'm 7 years old. That's my daddy. He's really nice. He won't hurt you. What's your name?" The girl looked then back at I'm. "That's a pretty name," said with a smile. "Is that your sister in there?" Nodded. "Her name is Lyra. We're twins." "Wow, I always wanted a sister or a brother, but Daddy says maybe one day." Sat down next to on the floor. "Why were you sleeping in those big machines?" Watched his daughter talk to the scared alien girl. Had no fear. She only had curiosity and kindness. Children were amazing like that. They did not carry the weight of history and war and hate. They just saw another person who needed help. Did not answer his question right away. Her eyes got distant and sad. "We had to run away," she finally said. "Bad things happened. Our mother put us in the pods and sent us away so we would be safe." "Where's your mommy now?" asked. His eyes filled with tears again. "I don't know." Did something that surprised everyone. She reached out and hugged. The fox girl froze at first. Then slowly, she let herself be held by the small human child. "It's okay," said. "My mommy is gone too. She went to heaven 3 years ago. Daddy says she's watching us from the stars. Maybe your mommy is watching you too." Started to cry, not loud or wild but soft and quiet. The tears rolled down her fur and dripped onto his shirt, but did not let go. She just held on. Had to look away. His own eyes were getting wet. His little girl was 7 years old, and she understood more about kindness than many adults he knew. The second pod made a sound. The waking process was complete. Moved toward it slowly. "Lyra is about to wake up," he said. "Can you talk to her? Tell her we're not enemies. She'll be scared just like you were." Wiped her eyes and stood up shakily. Helped her, holding her arm to keep her steady. Together, they walked to the second pod. When the lid opened and the mist cleared, another pair of golden eyes looked up at them. This girl looked exactly like. Same white and silver fur. Same pointed ears. Same small face. But could see small differences now that he looked closer. Lyra's face was a little softer. Her eyes were a little wider. Lyra's voice was weak and confused. "What? Where are we?" "We're safe," said quickly. She grabbed her sister's hand. "We're safe, Lyra. A human found us and brought us somewhere warm." Lyra looked at with fear, but because her sister was holding her hand, she did not panic. A human, but humans are. "I know what they say about humans," said, "but right now we're all stuck on this frozen moon together. I have a daughter to protect. You have each other. I think our best chance is to work together, not as enemies but as friends maybe." Lyra looked at. The small human girl waved at her with a big smile. "Hi, your sister's name is really pretty. Yours is too." Something changed in Lyra's eyes. The fear got smaller, not gone but smaller. She's just a child." "Yes," said, "and you're just children too. I'm not going to hurt any children, not ever. That's not who I am." He turned away and walked to the small cooking area of the ship. He had been saving some of the better food for emergencies. Well, this was an emergency. He made a simple soup, nothing fancy. Just some dried vegetables and protein powder mixed with hot water. But when you haven't eaten for years, even simple food is like a feast. He brought 4 bowls to where the others were sitting, and Lyra had moved to a bench, wrapped in blankets, sat across from them, still smiling. "Eat," said, "you need your strength." The Fox sisters looked at the food with wide eyes. Lyra reached for a bowl first. She smelled it carefully, then took a small sip. Her eyes got even wider. It's good," she said. She sounded surprised. Took her bowl next. She ate slowly at first, then faster as her hunger took over. Soon both sisters were drinking the soup like they had never tasted anything better in their lives. Sat down with his own bowl. He watched the two fox girls eat. They were so thin, so weak. How long had they been in those pods? Years, decades, he might never know. "Thank you," said quietly. She was looking at now without fear. There was still some caution in her eyes, but the terror was gone. "You saved our lives. I'm sorry I was so scared. It's just the stories we heard about humans." "What stories?" asked. And Lyra looked at each other. Some silent message passed between them. Then Lyra spoke. "In our world, humans are known as great warriors, very strong, very dangerous. We heard stories that humans came to other planets and took what they wanted, that they destroyed anyone who stood in their way." She paused. "But you're not like that. You and your daughter, you're different." Shook his head slowly. "I'm not different. Most humans are like me. We just want to live our lives, take care of our families, and be happy. The ones who destroy and take, they're the loud ones. They get into the stories, but they're not most of us." "Then why are the stories so scary?" asked. "Because scary stories travel far," said. "Good stories about regular people living regular lives, those don't spread. But stories about war and fear, those go everywhere." Thought about this. She looked at her sister and again saw them communicate without words. It must be a twin thing, he thought. "What happened to your colony ship?" he asked gently. "Do you remember?" Both sisters went quiet. The happy feeling from the food disappeared. Their ears went flat against their heads again. "Pirates," Lyra whispered. "Pirates attacked us. They wanted our cargo, our parents. They tried to fight back, but there were too many. Mom put us in the escape pod," continued. "She launched us toward the nearest moon. She said she would come find us. She promised." Her voice broke. "She promised." Put down his bowl, he moved closer to the two girls. "How long ago was that, do you know?" They shook their heads. "The pods just say stasis complete when we wake up," Lyra said. "We don't know how long we were sleeping." Thought about the snow covering the shelter, the rust on the metal, the dying power cells. Those girls had been sleeping for a long time, maybe too long for anyone to still be looking for them. But he would not say that, not now. They had already lost so much. They did not need to lose hope too. "Well," said, "right now we all need to focus on surviving. My ship's engine is broken. We can't fly. Our communication system is dead. We can't call for help, but we have food, water, and heat. We can make it for a while." "What do we do?" asked. There was something new in her eyes now, trust, just a little, but it was there. Looked at the two Fox sisters, then at his daughter, 3 young lives depending on him. "We work together," he said. "We fix what we can, we stay warm, we stay fed, and we don't give up. Help will come eventually. Someone will fly by this moon. Someone will detect our ship. We just have to hold on until then." "Together?" asked. She reached out and took Lyra's hand. The fox girl did not pull away. Instead, she held on. "Together," Lyra repeated softly. Nodded, "Together." Smiled. It was the first real smile since the crash. These 4 had been thrown together by bad luck and disaster. A human father, his young daughter, and 2 orphaned alien sisters. It was not a normal family, but maybe, just maybe, it could become one. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, the small group sat close together, sharing warmth and hope. And that night, for the first time in years, and Lyra slept without fear. 5 days passed on the frozen moon. Outside, the temperature stayed deadly cold. Inside the damaged ship, 4 people learned how to survive together. Woke up early every morning. He checked the power levels, the food supplies, and the heating system. Everything was running low. The ship was using more energy to stay warm than he had hoped. At this rate, they had maybe 2 more weeks before things got really bad. But he did not tell the others this. He kept his worries to himself. There was no point in scaring them. Instead, he smiled and made breakfast and talked about plans for the day. And Lyra were getting stronger. After 3 days of rest and food, they could walk without help. Their white and silver fur looked healthier, fuller. Their golden eyes had more life in them. Was surprised at how quickly the Fox sisters learned to trust him. On the second day, had helped him carry some boxes. On the third day, Lyra had asked him to teach her about human machines. By the fifth day, they no longer flinched when he walked past them. But it was who really brought them all together. The little girl had no fear and no hate. She treated and Lyra like they were new friends who had come for a very long sleepover. She showed them her stuffed rabbit. She told them stories about her school and her friends back home. She asked them 1,000 questions about food and clothes and games. At first, the Fox sisters did not know how to react to so much attention. They were used to being quiet and careful, but energy was impossible to resist. Soon, was smiling at her jokes. Soon, Lyra was teaching her words in the language. On the morning of the fifth day, was outside trying to fix part of the communication system. The cold was brutal, and he could only work for 15 minutes at a time before he had to go back inside to warm up. Progress was slow. When he came back inside after his third trip out, he found something unexpected. Was sitting between and Lyra, and all three of them were laughing. "What's so funny?" asked, pulling off his helmet. Giggled, was telling us about the first time she tried to cook. She made the whole kitchen catch fire. His ears went pink with embarrassment. "I was only 8 years old, and ovens are very complicated." "Our mother was so angry," Lyra added with a grin. "She said was banned from cooking until she was at least 30. Laughed. It felt good to laugh. For a moment he could forget that they were trapped on a frozen moon with no rescue in sight. He sat down with them and accepted the cup of hot tea that Lyra handed him. The tea was made from leaves he had in his emergency supplies. It was not very good tea, but it was warm. "Tell me more about your home," said. "What was it like?" The sisters looked at each other, that silent communication again, then spoke. "We lived on a colony ship called the Starlight Wind. It was our home for our whole lives. We never lived on a planet, most don't. We live in space, moving from place to place." "Why?" asked. "Why don't you stay in one place?" "Because of war," Lyra said quietly. "A long time ago they had many planets, beautiful planets with forests and rivers, but then other species came. They wanted our planets for themselves. We fought, but we lost. So we became travelers. We put our homes on ships and flew away." Felt a pain in his chest. So many species in this galaxy had sad stories like this. Humans had done some of this too, not him personally, but his kind. He could not pretend otherwise. "I'm sorry," he said. "That must have been very hard." "It was before we were born," said. "Our parents told us the stories, but we only knew the Starlight Wind. It was home, it was safe." Her voice got heavy. "Until it wasn't." Silence fell over the group. Even was quiet, sensing the sadness. Then had an idea. "You know what? I think we need to do something useful today. Sitting around and worrying won't help anyone. How about we all work on fixing the ship together?" His ears perked up. "We can help." "Of course you can help. You two know about machines. Some of our technology is similar, and I could use extra hands. What do you say?" The sisters nodded eagerly. Lyra especially seemed excited. She had been asking about human machines all week, and now she would finally get to work on one. They spent the rest of the day working on the communication system, showed them how it worked, explaining each part in simple words. Was not very interested in the technical details, but she was strong and could hold heavy parts in place while worked. Lyra was different. She asked questions about everything. She wanted to know why each wire went where, why each button did what it did. "You're very curious," told her as they worked on a damaged circuit board. Lyra's ears went down in embarrassment. "I'm sorry, I asked too many questions. My mother always said I was too nosy." No, said quickly. "Curious is good. Curious is how you learn. Never be sorry for wanting to understand things." Lyra looked at him with wide eyes. No adult had ever told her that before. On the Starlight Wind, Children were supposed to be quiet and follow orders. Asking too many questions was considered rude. "Really?" she asked. "Really? When I was your age, I asked questions all the time. My father was a mechanic and I followed him everywhere, asking why about everything. That's how I learned to fly ships. That's how I learned to fix things. Your questions are not a problem. They're a gift." Something changed in Lyra's face. A small smile appeared. A real one, not the careful, polite smiles she had been giving before. "Thank you," she said softly. They kept working. By the end of the day, the communication system was still not fixed, but it was closer than before. More importantly, the four of them had worked together as a team, as something close to a family. That night made dinner for everyone. It was the same simple soup as always, but he added some extra dried fruit from the emergency supplies. A small treat. As they ate, suddenly asked, "Why did you save us?" Stopped eating and looked at her. "What do you mean?" "When you found us in the pods, you could have left us there. We were strangers, aliens. We would have died and you would have had more food for yourself, and why did you bring us back?" It was a fair question. Had thought about it himself many times since the crash. Why had he risked his limited supplies for two strangers? "Because it was the right thing to do," he said finally. "I couldn't watch two young girls die when I could save them. What kind of person would that make me? What kind of father would I be if I taught that only our lives matter?" Stared at him. "But we're not your species. We're not your responsibility." Shook his head. "When someone needs help and you can help them, it doesn't matter what species they are. It doesn't matter where they come from or what they look like. If you can help, you help. That's what my wife taught me. That's what I'm teaching." "Your wife," Lyra said gently, "said she passed away." 3 years ago, said. His voice was steady, but there was pain underneath. "She was sick for a long time, cancer. The doctors tried everything, but in the end..." He stopped. Some things were too hard to say out loud. Moved closer to her father and held his hand. She had heard this story before, but it never got easier. "She was a good person," continued. "The best person I ever knew. She always helped everyone around her, even when she was sick, even when she was in pain. She said that kindness is the most important thing we can give each other, more important than money or power or anything else." He looked at Lyra. "So when I found you too, I heard her voice in my head, and she said to help you, so I did." The Fox sisters did not speak for a long moment, could see that his words had affected them deeply. Then did something unexpected. She stood up, walked over to and bowed her head. "Thank you," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "Not just for saving us, but for being who you are. The stories we heard about humans, they were wrong. Or maybe they were only about some humans. You are nothing like those stories. You are good." Lyra joined her sister. She bowed too. "We owe you our lives. We will never forget that." Felt uncomfortable with the bowing. He stood up and gently lifted both their heads. "You don't need to bow to me, and you don't owe me anything. Just help me help me get us all off this moon alive. That's all I ask." And Lyra looked at each other. Something passed between them again. Then they both nodded. "We will," said. "We promise." After dinner, sat alone in the pilot's chair, looking at the dark screens. The others were sleeping in the back of the ship. He could hear their soft breathing. He thought about what lay ahead. The food was running out. The power was running out. The communication system might never work again. There was a very real chance that rescue would not come in time. But looking at those 3 sleeping figures, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: purpose. For 3 years after his wife's death, he had just been surviving, taking jobs, paying bills, going through the motions. He loved, of course, and she gave his life meaning, but something had been missing. Now on this frozen moon, with 2 scared alien girls depending on him, he felt alive again. He had something to fight for, someone to protect, more than just his daughter. Maybe this was why the universe had brought them together. Maybe this was meant to be. Or maybe it was just random chance. Bad luck and good luck mixed together. Either way was grateful. These 3 girls had given him something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. He leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new fears to face. But right now, in this moment, he was at peace. The storm outside continued to blow, covering the ship in more snow. But inside, the small family slept warm and safe, unaware of the challenges still to come. On the 10th day, the food ran out. Had been cutting portions smaller and smaller each day, trying to make supplies last longer. But there was a limit to how little 4 people could eat and still survive, and they had reached that limit. He stared at the empty storage box. Just a few crumbs were left at the bottom. Behind him, he could hear coughing. She had caught a cold from the constant chill in the ship. The heating system was failing too. The temperature inside had dropped from comfortable to cool to cold. Appeared next to him. She looked at the empty box and her ears went flat. "There's nothing left," she said. It was not a question. "No," admitted. "We have water from melting ice outside, but food, no, nothing." Was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I know where we can find more." Looked at her with surprise. "What do you mean?" "The shelter where you found us. There were emergency supplies there too. Food tablets. They don't taste good, but they have nutrients. I remember seeing them before we went into the pods." Thought about the small shelter. He had checked it once when he brought the sisters back to the ship, but he had been focused on the pods. He might have missed things. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Not completely, but it's worth looking right." Nodded slowly. Yes, it is. I'll go check." "I'll come with you," said. "I know storage containers. They can be hard to find if you don't know what to look for." Wanted to say no. He wanted to keep safe inside the ship, but she was right. He had no idea what food storage looked like. He needed her help. "Okay," he said. "Get dressed warm. We go quick and come back quick. The temperature outside is getting worse." They suited up in the warmest clothes available. For this meant wrapping herself in 3 blankets over her regular clothes. Her fur helped protect her from cold, but not this kind of cold. Nothing was made for this kind of cold. Lyra watched them prepare with worried eyes. "Be careful," she said to her sister. "Please." Touched her nose to Lyra's nose, a gesture of love between family. "I will, stay with, keep her warm." Lyra nodded and went to sit with the sick little girl. Was sleeping fitfully, her small body shivering under the blankets. And stepped outside into the storm. The wind hit them like a wall. Snow and ice flew through the air, making it hard to see. Grabbed arm so they would not get separated. "This way," he shouted over the wind. "Follow me." They walked slowly through the snow. It was deeper than before, reaching up to their knees in some places. Every step was hard work. The shelter was only 100 meters away, but it felt like 100 kilometers. When they finally reached it, had to dig away snow to find the door. His hands were freezing even through his gloves. Helped him, using her claws to break up the ice. Inside the shelter, it was dark and almost as cold as outside. But at least there was no wind. Turned on his helmet light and looked around. "Where would the food be?" he asked. Moved around the small space, checking the walls. Her golden eyes were focused and determined. "Here," she said suddenly. She pressed on a part of the wall that looked no different from any other part. A hidden panel popped open. Inside were dozens of small packages. Food tablets, just like it said. "This is enough for weeks," said with relief. "Maybe even a month if we're careful." They filled their bags with as many packages as they could carry. Found some other things too, medical supplies, batteries, a small heating device that still worked. "This is amazing," said. "You just saved us." His ears went pink. "I just remembered where things were. You're the one who saved us first." They made 2 trips between the shelter and the ship, carrying everything useful they could find. By the time they were done, both of them were exhausted and half frozen, but they had supplies now, real supplies. Back inside the ship, Lyra was waiting anxiously. When she saw the bags of food, her eyes went wide with joy. "You found it, you actually found it." "Your sister knew exactly where to look," said. He was smiling despite his frozen face. "She's amazing." His ears went even more pink. She was not used to getting compliments. Immediately made hot food for everyone. The tablets dissolved in hot water to make a thick paste that tasted like nothing and everything at the same time. It was strange, but it was nutritious. Most importantly, it was food. They fed some too, who was still weak from her cold. The little girl made a face at the taste but ate it anyway. "Daddy, this tastes weird," she complained. "I know, baby, but it will make you strong. Eat it all." Obeyed, though she did not look happy about it. That night after fell asleep, something important happened. Was checking on the heating device they had brought back. It was a design, and he was trying to figure out how to connect it to the ship's power system. He was so focused on his work that he did not notice and Lyra approaching until they were standing right in front of him. He looked up and saw them both staring at him with strange expressions, serious, almost formal. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "Nothing is wrong," said. "We need to talk to you about something important." Put down his tools and gave them his full attention. "Okay, what is it?" The sisters looked at each other. That silent communication again. Then they both took a deep breath. "Among our people," Lyra began, "there is a sacred tradition. It is called the Twin Bond Pact. It is the most important promise a can make." "What is it?" asked. "When twins reach a certain age, they choose a protector, a guardian, someone who is not their parent but who they trust with their lives, someone who has proven themselves worthy through actions, not words." Lyra paused. "This person becomes family, not by blood but by choice, by bond." Started to understand. His heart beat faster. Continued. "The Twin Bond Pact is never offered lightly. In the history of our people, it has only been given maybe 100 times. It is considered the highest honor one can receive from twins. And it has never," Lyra said slowly, "ever been offered to a non, never to an alien, and especially never to a human." Swallowed hard, he could feel the weight of this moment. "What are you saying?" The sisters both dropped to their knees in front of him. They placed their right hands over their hearts. "Of Earth," said, her voice formal and filled with emotion, "you saved our lives when you had no reason to. You shared your food when you were starving. You protected us when you could have abandoned us. You treated us like family when we were strangers. You showed us that the stories about humans were wrong," Lyra added. "You showed us what true kindness looks like, what true honor means." Together they spoke the next words in unison. "We offer you the Twin Bond Pact. We ask you to become our sworn guardian, our protector, our family, from this day until our last day. Will you accept?" Could not speak. His throat was too tight. His eyes were burning with tears he was trying not to let fall. He thought about his wife, about how she had always said that family was not just about blood. It was about love. It was about choice. It was about being there for each other no matter what. He thought about sleeping peacefully nearby. His daughter, who had welcomed these two girls without any fear or hate, who had taught him that kindness has no species. He thought about and Lyra themselves, two orphaned girls who had lost everything, who had been sleeping in pods for years, waiting for someone to save them, who had been taught to fear humans but had chosen to trust him instead. How could he say no? He knelt down so he was at their level. He placed his own hand over his heart. "I don't know your customs," he said, his voice shaking. "I don't know all your traditions, but I know this. From the moment I found you in those pods, I knew I would protect you. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. You're not strangers to me anymore, you're family. You have been for days." He took each of their hands in his. So yes, I accept. I will be your guardian, your protector, your family, for as long as I live." And Lyra started crying. They threw themselves at and hugged him tight. He hugged them back, all three of them crying together. "Thank you," sobbed into his chest. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "We will make you proud," Lyra promised. "We will be worthy of your bond." "You already are," whispered. "You already are." They stayed like that for a long time, holding each other in the cold ship on the frozen moon. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside, something beautiful had happened. Something that would change all of their lives forever. When they finally pulled apart, noticed something strange. His hand was glowing. A soft silver light was shining from the palm where he had touched the sisters. "What is this?" he asked. And Lyra looked at his hand with amazement. "The bond mark," whispered. "The universe has accepted the pact. You truly are one of us now." Stared at the glowing mark. It did not hurt. In fact, it felt warm. It felt right. "Does this mean something?" he asked. "It means the bond is real," Lyra said. "It means we are connected, forever. Wherever you go in the universe, we will know. Wherever we go, you will feel. We are family now, not just in words, but in truth." Did not fully understand, but he trusted them, and he trusted the warm feeling spreading through his heart. That night, for the first time since the crash, did not worry about the future. He had a family again, a real family, and together they would face whatever came next. As he fell asleep, the glowing mark slowly faded, leaving only a small silver line on his palm, a permanent reminder of the promise he had made. A promise he would keep until his dying breath. 3 more weeks passed on the frozen moon. The food from the shelter kept them alive. The heating device kept them warm. But slowly, even these supplies began to run low again. Worked on the communication system every day. His fingers were always cold and the work was slow, but he never gave up. He could not give up. He had 3 girls depending on him now. And Lyra helped him whenever they could. They had learned so much about human technology in these weeks. Lyra especially had become skilled at understanding wires and circuits. She had a natural talent for machines. Was feeling better. Her cold was gone, and she was back to her energetic self. She spent her days playing with the Fox sisters, learning games and teaching them human ones. The ship was always filled with laughter now. On the morning of the 32nd day, was outside again, trying to fix the last part of the communication antenna. His hands were numb. His body was exhausted, but he kept working. Then suddenly, a light flashed on the control panel. Stared at it. For a moment he thought he was seeing things, but no, the light was real. The system was getting power. With shaking hands, he pressed the button to send a distress signal. Nothing happened at first. Then, after the longest 10 seconds of his life, a static sound came through the speaker. "Repeat, is Station Gamma. We have detected distress signal. Please respond." Almost fell over. "This is cargo ship Delta 97, he shouted into the microphone. "We crashed on an uncharted moon. 4 survivors. We need immediate rescue. Please respond." More static, then clear as day. "Delta 97, we hear you. Lock on to your position now. Rescue ship dispatched. Estimated arrival time 6 hours. Repeat, 6 hours. Hold on. Help is coming." Dropped to his knees in the snow. He was crying and laughing at the same time. He did not care that his tears were freezing on his face. They were saved. They were actually saved. He ran back inside the ship, almost falling 3 times in his hurry. When he burst through the door, all 3 girls looked up in surprise. "What happened?" asked, jumping to her feet. "What's wrong?" Grabbed her and hugged her tight. Then he grabbed Lyra. Then, he was laughing and crying and talking all at once. "Rescue, a rescue ship. They heard us. They're coming. 6 hours. We're going home." For a moment, no one moved. The words were too big to understand all at once. Then screamed with joy and jumped into her father's arms. And Lyra held each other, tears streaming down their fur. "We're saved," Lyra whispered. "We're really saved." "Really saved," confirmed. "Really, truly saved." The next 6 hours were the longest and shortest of life. They spent the time packing what little they had, mostly clothes and blankets and a few personal items, the food tablets, the heating device, anything they might need. But really, they did not need much. Everything important they carried in their hearts. Kept running to the window every few minutes to look for the rescue ship. "Is it here yet? Is it here yet?" "Soon, baby," would say each time. "Very soon." And Lyra were quiet but happy. They held hands constantly, as if afraid to let go. Every few minutes they would look at with grateful eyes. He would smile back at them. When the rescue ship finally appeared in the sky, it was the most beautiful thing had ever seen. A big, powerful ship with bright lights cutting through the clouds. It landed a short distance from their damaged ship, and the engines blew away mountains of snow. The door opened and a crew of rescuers came out. They were human from Station Gamma. They had brought medical supplies, food, and most importantly, warmth. The team leader was a tall woman named Captain. She ran toward them with a look of amazement on her face. "Delta 97, we've been looking for you for weeks. Your ship disappeared from all our systems, we thought." She stopped when she saw the 4 figures standing in the snow. "Wait, who are they?" Put his arms around Lyra. "These are my daughters," he said simply. "All 3 of them." Captain's eyes went wide. She looked from the human girl to the 2 girls. "Your daughters." "It's a long story. I'll explain everything later. Right now, we need to get inside your ship. We've been on this frozen rock for over a month." The captain nodded slowly. Whatever questions she had, they could wait. She led them all aboard the rescue ship. Inside it was warm, really warm. For a moment just stood there with his eyes closed, feeling the heat soak into his bones. He had forgotten what it felt like to not be cold. The medical team checked all 4 of them. They were thin and tired but surprisingly healthy. The food tablets had done their job. The heating device had done its job. And most importantly, hope had done its job. As the rescue ship lifted off from the frozen moon, pressed her face against the window, she watched the white world get smaller and smaller until it was just a dot in the darkness. "Goodbye, frozen moon," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing us together." And Lyra sat on either side of. They were wrapped in warm blankets now, and color had returned to their cheeks. Their golden eyes were bright and happy. "What happens now?" Lyra asked quietly. Had been thinking about this. He had many things to figure out. Legal issues, living arrangements, how to explain 2 daughters to a galaxy that had never seen such a thing before. But all of that could wait. Right now, only one thing mattered. "Now," he said, "we go home together as a family." "But we don't have papers," said. "We're not citizens of anywhere. The Starlight Wind was our only home and it's gone. Where can we go?" Pulled both sisters closer. "You go where I go. My home is your home. My planet is your planet. I don't care what the laws say or what the papers say. You're my daughters now. The bond proves it. And anyone who has a problem with that can talk to me." Captain, who had been listening nearby, walked over. Her expression was curious but not unkind. "A twin bond pact," she said slowly. "I've heard of it. One of the most sacred traditions in culture, never given to an outsider before." She looked at with new respect. "What did you do to earn such an honor?" Shrugged. "I just did what anyone would do. I helped them when they needed help." "No," said firmly. "Not anyone would do what you did. Most people would have left us to die. You saved us because you are good, because humans are good. At least some humans are." Captain smiled. "Well, I think the galaxy is going to be very interested in this story. A human earning a twin bond pact from twins. That's going to make the news." Groaned. "Please, no news. I'm just a cargo pilot. I don't want attention." "Too late for that," the captain laughed. "You're going to be famous." And she was right. When they arrived at Station Gamma, crowds were waiting. Word had spread quickly through the station and beyond. People wanted to see the human who had survived a month on a frozen moon, and they wanted to see the girls who had given him the most sacred bond in their culture. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions, but ignored them all. He walked through the crowd with his 3 daughters close by his side. He found a quiet room where they could rest. Finally, away from everyone, they could breathe. Climbed into his lap, and Lyra sat on either side of him, and for a long moment they just sat together in silence. "Daddy," said finally, "does this mean I have sisters now, real sisters?" Looked at and Lyra. They looked back at him with eyes full of love. "Yes, baby," he said. "You have 2 sisters now, real sisters, forever." Grinned. "That's so cool, I always wanted sisters." She turned to and Lyra. "Can we have sleepovers and do each other's hair and tell secrets?" The Fox sisters laughed. It was a beautiful sound, full of joy and relief and hope. "Yes," Lyra said, "we can do all of those things." "Good," said with satisfaction. "Being a big sister is going to be fun." "Wait," said, "you're the youngest, wouldn't we be the big sisters?" Shook her head firmly. "No way, I found you first, that makes me in charge." Everyone laughed at that, even who had not laughed so hard in years. As he sat there with his 3 daughters, he thought about everything they had been through. The crash, the cold, the fear, the hope, the bond. He thought about his wife, and he knew she would be proud. She would love these girls as much as he did. She would welcome them with open arms. "Thank you," he whispered, looking up at the ceiling. Whether he was talking to his wife or to the universe itself, he was not sure, but he said it anyway. "Thank you for bringing them to me." Outside the room, the galaxy was buzzing with the story of the human cargo pilot and his daughters. Politicians debated what it meant for human relations. Scholars discussed the significance of the twin bond pact. Reporters speculated about the family's future. But inside the room, none of that mattered. Inside the room, there was only a father and his 3 daughters. A family made not by blood but by choice, by love, by a frozen moon and a desperate crash in 2 pods slowly dying in the snow. The universe was big and strange and often cruel. But sometimes, just sometimes, it brought people together in ways no one expected. And when it did, those people held on tight and never let go. Looked at his daughters, was already falling asleep against his chest, and Lyra were leaning on his shoulders, their eyes closed, their breathing slow. He smiled and closed his own eyes. They were home. They were together. They were family. And that was all that mattered.